but our open enrollment is closed for 2017. It's important to note that when you come through Access Health, and we'll talk about the different types of financial help that we have, that financial help may be available for anyone who qualifies. Over 76% of our consumers who purchase a qualified health plan do get determined eligible for some type of financial help. And if you don't get covered, you could be subject to a penalty of about $695 or more. There is a percentage depending on your income. So this slide just shows a little bit about how the Affordable Care Act and all of its features sort of interact together for Americans, not just in Connecticut, but across the nation, improving quality and lowering healthcare costs. We've got some new consumer protections for those with pre-existing conditions, customer assistance, and then overall access to healthcare, which includes all of the health insurance marketplaces, which Access Health Connecticut is one of those. The 10 essential health benefits that you see on the screen here are covered by all of the qualified health plans that Access Health Connecticut offers. Outpatient care, trips to the emergency room, treatment in the hospital for inpatient care, care before and after your baby is born, mental health and substance use disorder, I forget what the last, services, prescription drugs, services and devices to help recover if you're injured or have a disability or a chronic condition, any lab tests, preventative services, which is kind of one of the most key things that we try to touch on with Access Health. Oh.
I'm sorry, what?
Because somebody said there's no sound.
Oh, that's just an individual person.
Oh, okay. And then, again, preventative services would be primary care visits, any management of a chronic condition, and just general visits to your primary care physician, and then lastly, pediatric services. So these are our two insurance carriers for 2017. You may know that in previous years we've had other insurance carriers, but this year Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Connecticut are the two that are serving our qualified health plans. And I can talk a little bit more about how we interact with those insurance carriers. And then also we do eligibility determinations for Husky Health for Husky A, Husky B, and Husky D. So a little more about our financial help programs that may be available. This graphic shows you a little bit about anything that relates to financial help is going to be based on household size and income. We'll talk a little bit more about what income calculation is, the modified adjusted gross income. But you'll see from this graphic that anyone from a single household to a family of 4 with income between $16,243 up to about $97,000. Any family or individual that falls within that is either going to get help through Medicaid or through financial help offered through the exchange, through Access Health Connecticut, in the form of cost sharing reductions or tax credits. So who qualifies for financial help? Our financial health programs are also referred to as affordability programs because they lower the cost generally that an individual or a family is going to have to pay for their health care. The eligibility for financial help is based on a household's modified adjusted gross income, the household size and tax filing status, and the age of either the individual or the members of the household. On the right there, you see a little bit, kind of a general overview about how financial help is dependent upon an individual or family's where they stand in the federal poverty level. So we offer financial help up to about 400% of the federal poverty level for individuals and families. And then at the bottom, you will see, bottom left corner there, modified adjusted gross income is very important, and it's actually very easy to find on your tax return. We encounter a lot of people who have questions about what's included, what's not included, that kind of thing. And for an individual who's filed their taxes previously, it has line 37 on your IRS Form 1040, which is your federal tax return, is going to have the information about your MAGI. and any tax exempt interest and any foreign earned income. Go to the next one. Oh, that's okay.
No worries.
Don't worry, I got a little lost myself.
We all did. You have the
Yeah.
full deck in front of you, so no worries.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about two types of financial help that are paid to lower an individual or a household's healthcare costs. They're cost sharing reductions and advance payment of the premium tax credit. So cost sharing reductions are available to some households and individuals whose modified adjusted gross income is below 250% of the federal poverty level. And on the previous slide, there's a reference to exactly what those income amounts are. Cost sharing reductions lower the amount that an individual pays out of pocket for their deductibles, coinsurance, and copayments. So depending on how the qualified health plan is structured, those out-of-pocket costs that the individual is going to be directly responsible for are what's going to be lowered by a cost sharing reduction if they qualify. There's an example there about an individual who files taxes single, and their projected modified adjusted gross income is $26,500, which is below 250% of the federal poverty level for a household of one. This individual will be eligible for 73% cost sharing reduction if he or she chooses to enroll in a silver level plan. So it's very important to note, if you're in our application and you get there's a eligibility determination screen that's going to show all of the types of plans, the premium costs, things like that. And cost sharing reductions can only be realized if an individual enrolls in a silver level plan. So we have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum level plans. We often see that, this is important to note, we often see that a lot of people enroll in a bronze plan because they see that the monthly premium is lower. And actually, if you think about so for example, if you have a chronic condition, something that needs maintenance, diabetes, asthma, things like that, you're actually going to realize more savings on a year-long basis because you know that you have a health condition that you have to manage on a year-long basis. You're going to realize more savings by choosing that silver plan, that the premium each month may be maybe a little bit more expensive than, for example, the bronze plan, but the out-of-pocket costs and deductibles, coinsurance, and copayments are going to be less. So it's important to, we try to encourage people to read all of the numbers that are on the website once they get their eligibility determination and not just choose based on premium amount, because we know that it's easy to see, well, that premium amount is $50 less on that bronze plan, but in reality, if they qualify for cost sharing reductions, they're not realizing the entire savings that's available to them. So it's very important to look at those silver level plans and any cost sharing reductions, because the silver level plan at the 94% cost sharing reduction, the carrier is going to cover 94% of those costs, which is a huge benefit to the consumer, especially if they do fall under that 250% of the federal poverty level income amount. Go to the next slide. So the second type of financial help that's available to our consumers through Access Health Connecticut is advance payment of the premium tax credit. And the most important part of that title is the advanced payment portion. So otherwise, this functions just like any other tax credit, right? So you, when you file your federal tax return, you're eligible to receive that money back at the end of the year. The way that this is unique is these are advanced payments of the premium tax credit that are paid on behalf of the individual directly to the carrier. So if you come on and you find out that you're, and this is just a random example, but if you're eligible, say you're a household of 3 and you're eligible for $250 in advanced payment of the premium tax credit, that means that you're going to get $250. It's going to come right off of your premium every month. So it's a really great savings for the family and individuals, and we offer advance payment of the premium tax credit, or I should say the federal government offers them, with households whose MAGI that we spoke about before is below 400% of the federal poverty level. There's a couple other notes on the slide here about eligibility. So the individual or household cannot be eligible for other qualifying affordable health care coverage. So that would be Medicaid, CHIP, VA care, Medicare, TRICARE, or any employer-sponsored insurance that qualifies. Another important piece of this whole process when you receive advanced payment of the premium tax credit is there is a reconciliation process at the end of the year. So when the federal government pays out a tax credit in advance, they're going to, when you file your taxes, you're going to need to have a record of everything that was paid on your behalf and then everything that you paid in premium. So that's the reconciliation process. And if you receive advance payment of the premium tax credit, you do have to file taxes for that year. You must also be a resident of Connecticut and be a U.S. citizen or lawfully present. So this is just an overview of our application process so that someone or you, as I know that in our previous session we had individuals who would either be helping someone through an application or trying to advise on how to go through an application. So you can shop for plans on our website even without filling out an application. You can give us a little information about the household, about what the age of the individuals in the household and the income for the household, and sort of get an idea of what you might qualify for. And then apply for financial assistance. You'll receive an eligibility determination. You can select a plan, and then there will be a verification process. So any information given either on behalf of an individual or that an individual or household attests to, we may have to verify it depending on what information we can actually confirm. So the verification process is one of those things that we find is challenging for individuals, especially in the case of income, citizenship, and immigration status. When we request documents, not everybody has the same documents. Not everybody keeps those documents or can locate those documents. So we try to make it as easy as possible for people to upload those documents, to send them in to us, and to try to get them processed as soon as possible. A quick note on verification. If an individual is determined eligible for a plan with financial help, they actually have 90 days of coverage to verify that information. So it's not that you have to verify and then you get covered. We offer the benefit that you can be covered for that period of time, knowing that your coverage may be subject to either being terminated or you could lose your financial help if you don't verify. So I don't know if anybody's seen our commercials, or if you go to a UConn game, you'll see our ads and things like that saying that your application process isn't complete until you send in your documents, which is the verification process that you see here. And then all the information from the application is shared with the insurer. So this is a very important slide. We try to ask that individuals who are going to apply for coverage, and again, we're outside of an open enrollment now, so this would really only be in the case of a special enrollment period, present day. We ask that any applicant comes prepared with their social security numbers and those of anybody else in the household that has them, any visa, green card, or other immigration documents, including their document numbers, a most recent tax return, because that's the easiest way for someone to project their income to the next year. So if you have your 2016 tax return and you don't expect for your income to change, if you know that your employment's going to be the same, then you would use that tax return to project your income for the year that you're applying for coverage for. Any employer information, and we would encourage that any employer information that's brought, that applicants inquire to their employer first about any employer-sponsored insurance that may be available, because if you do have qualifying affordable minimum value coverage through your employer, you won't qualify through Access Health, especially for any financial help. And then anything about any current insurance coverage, so whether that be COBRA or that be an employer-sponsored plan or that be some other government-sponsored plan, it's important to have that information, because when you walk through our application, you'll see different warnings and different questions about that information. And we also do, we do have a complete list of documents that we may ask for, especially during the verification process, available on our website that you see there, learn.accesshealthct.com. There we go. So we do offer dental coverage. all of our qualified health plans do cover pediatric dental until the age of 18 for children. It's automatically covered within the qualified health plan, but we do offer standalone dental for any individuals that are over the age of 18, and our carrier for that is Cigna. It's pretty easy to get through our website to the dental section. It's a photograph on our website that you can just click on to get to information about applying for dental. This is the scary slide about the penalty that you may be required to pay if you don't have coverage continuous coverage throughout the year. It's a penalty of $695 or more, depending on how many individuals are in your household and what your income was for the year. And again, this penalty is assessed when an individual files their federal tax return. So we have 3 enrollment channels, online or by phone, and then also in person. So we go through the process of certifying brokers throughout the state and certified application counselors. These are available year-round, so anyone who's looking for coverage during a special enrollment period at this point can seek out a broker or a CAC, we call them CACs. On our website, there's a link to an area where you can search for help in your area. And during open enrollment, we do have storefront locations throughout the state for in-person help. And all of the assistance through Access Health Connecticut and through our community partners is free. So this is what individuals would be looking at right now if they were looking for coverage. So since we're outside of open enrollment, anyone looking for coverage is going to have to experience a qualifying life event in order to be able to enroll through a special enrollment period. So these are 6 of the most common qualifying life events, though we know that there's a variety of things that could happen to an individual or a household that could lead to them being uninsured, needing more affordable coverage, things like that. So we try to work with any individual that has any kind of experience that would leave them without coverage or without affordable coverage. So you've got marriage, divorce or legal separation, having a baby, adopting a child or fostering a child, making a permanent move to Connecticut as well, and then the loss of coverage due to a job change or losing a job. And there's also when an individual ages off of their parent's plan. So once you turn 26, you're not eligible to be covered on your parent's policy anymore. So we try to outreach to that population to say, hey, we know you're turning 26, or households who have individuals who are turning 26, outreach to them, say, you know, you can always come on to apply for your own plan through Access Health with any financial help as well. So together with our community partners that we have, and I would include everybody in this room as a community partner with Access Health, our uninsured rate is actually at 3.5% now, according to our CEO yesterday, which is very exciting for us. And the update, I know this is our February 2016 number. We actually are at 111,000 as of this month, 2017, for 2017 enrollment. And we know that with some of the changes that have happened to the ACA, we lost our, payments made to brokers through our insurance carrier, so we didn't have as much broker support this year to do outreach to get people to enroll, but we did have something like 35,000 new enrollees on exchange. So individuals who had never been through our system before to come on and apply and get coverage. So that was really an accomplishment this year. And nearly 600,000 of the individuals enrolled in our state are Medicaid members. I love these maps. So the stars that you see on the map here are our enrollment locations. And then if you want to go to the next one, this shows the locations of those certified application counselors that I spoke about before. So we go through the process of certifying them every single year because our system changes every year. Our application looks a little bit different. There's new enhancements that we've made, trying to make things easier, trying to make things more fluid. So they do get certified, and they're out in every community to offer in-person help. So Kim's going to talk about a little bit more about the opportunities to partner with Access Health.
So it's my job to help develop relationships with our community partners. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So what is a partner? Really just an organization that helps us get the word out to folks that don't have health care and urges them to get covered or re-enroll. So we have all manner of community partners and all kind of investing different levels just depending on capacity and what they do, but you know, everyone from hospitals to state organizations, colleges, like, you know, Connecticut AIDS, Connecticut Pride, just all manner of organizations, and it's really a great part of my job to go meet with various people and see what they do. I really enjoy that. So this is new this past year. Access Health developed this wonderful community partners page, which is at learn.accesshealthct.com/community. And I'll go through this. You can see that there's all kinds of really great stuff. So we'll have any events or trainings or webinars will be listed. And then we go to the printable materials. Almost anything you can imagine, we have a flyer for. So, you know, immigration status, aging off your plan, the tax penalty, when to enroll, how to enroll. It's all there for you guys to access and print for anyone who needs it. We also have a newsletter that we send out. It's really terrific. Just brings you up to speed on what we've been doing out in the community and anything important that folks might need to know about changes in law or policy. It can be found in the newsletter as well. And so the last handy-dandy thing on the website is who do you call for what? Sometimes you want to reach Access Health and you're not sure who to reach out to. You know, there's customer service, there's policy folks. So right here on the website, it gives you a little bit guidance whether to reach out to me or to Allie or just, you know, who it is that you need. So I actually really like that part of it. And lastly, we would love if our partners let us know about events and invited us to them. We table at all kinds of, you know, church fairs, races, rallies, wellness fairs, job fairs, all kinds of things. It's nice to have that bright orange tablecloth out there. So people just are aware that we're here and we're ready to help folks enroll. So if you want to invite us, you can either email outreach@accesshealthct.com or there's also a form on that webpage that you can fill out, and that'll get you to me as well. So all of you guys are considered partners. Anything you need, feel free to reach out. I'll try to help you. And now we're going to go to questions, and we do have this question that came online, so let's get that one first. My question is this. On page 9, the presenter spoke about MAGI line 37 and also referred to 20A to 20B. Bottom line, I have a client not employed earning wages. However, the client is receiving Social Security benefits only. This is tax exempt. Social Security benefits total $18,000 and change a year. And for a single household, the limit for Husky D or QHP is $16,243. I'm not sure what the question is, but
So, can you just scroll up to
Yeah.
the file a little more? So I think if we're asking specifically about the Social Security benefits totaling more than the limit for Husky D, so that individual can still come on and apply to see what they qualify for. So the limit for Medicaid for one individual is that $16,243, but anyone between $16,243 and about $47,000 can still come on to see if they qualify for financial support. They wouldn't necessarily be able to do that right at the moment because we're outside of open enrollment, but when they come on, those Social Security benefits, those tax-exempt Social Security benefits should be included. The only thing that gets a little confusing is supplemental security income should not be included in the MAGI calculation. I just want to make a note of that because we do get a lot of questions about whether to include that or not. So the question is whether or not they would be able to qualify for financial help. They should definitely come on and go through the application to see if they would qualify. But if it's the concern that they wouldn't qualify for SKD, they do still fall between the range for a single individual, what they would qualify for either cost sharing reductions or tax credits. So I hope that helps.
Okay.
Can they also find out about whether that person has Medicare?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Anyone, right. And anyone who has Medicare, in a perfect world, the federal government, they're going to have that information in their system. So when an individual comes on to apply, regardless of what they tell us about their income or their household size or anything like that, we actually use the federal government's data sources, their enrollment information, to confirm whether or not someone would be eligible to buy with us or qualify for Medicaid. So in the instance of anyone who may be eligible for Medicare or is already enrolled in Medicare, and maybe because we do encounter a lot of individuals who think that perhaps Access Health sells supplemental plans, that they can still participate if they're covered by Medicare, and that's typically not the case. But we do use that data source from the federal government to check if they have Medicare. And that's usually pretty instantaneous. We can check if they're already enrolled or if they're eligible, and that would send up a flag to say, hey, you might want to look into this to find out if you are eligible for Medicare benefits, or if you're already enrolled, you can't enroll through Access Health.
And then this individual has another question. I am helping a widow currently receiving a QHP via Access Health, working with an insurance broker. She is turning 65, eligible for Medicare coverage. How does this insurance continue for the 20% Medicare doesn't cover? So yeah, unfortunately, we don't offer the supplemental plans.
Yeah, the qualified health plans that we offer are not supplements to any Medicare coverage. So one of the things, we got into this a little bit on Tuesday, is for anyone who's currently enrolled in a QHP through Access Health, so anyone currently enrolled, we house their birth date information, and we use that information to say, we do a few checks. So if you're turning 26 or you're turning 65 within the calendar year, we do a periodic check that says, if you're going to be turning 65 within the next 2 months, we actually send you a notice in the mail. So it's going to say, hey, you know, we see here that you're going to be turning 65. You should reach out. I believe we actually have choices of information in that notice. So it's, if anything, it's just like a, hey, you might want to look into what you're eligible for going forward kind of thing. So you're not going to get automatically disenrolled on your 65th birthday, but it's sort of a call to action on the part of the consumer to say, these benefits could be available to you through Medicare, and I would hope that they would also know about the financial ramifications of not enrolling in Medicare as soon as they become eligible to do so.
So other questions? If there's questions in the room, I'm going to repeat the question for the benefit of those online.
Yep.
So,
Okay. For a person over 65 and not eligible for Medicare, are they eligible for Access Health? Because we've had a couple of people that we referred to Access Health and we were told that they could not get any insurance through Access Health.
Okay.
So I'm trying to clarify, can a person call and get
okay, the question is if a person is 65 or older but does not qualify for Medicare, can they come through Access Health to get insured?
So I don't claim to be a Medicare expert by any stretch of the imagination, but from what I do know, there are instances where individuals over 65 won't qualify for Medicare. For example, if they haven't worked a certain amount of time, I don't know, residency, if they haven't been present for a certain amount of time, that kind of thing. Those individuals, based on that information alone, should be able to come on to Access Health and apply for a qualified health plan. So I don't know in what instances what would have barred those individuals from qualifying.
They didn't have enough work orders to qualify for Medicare.
Right.
But they wanted to go through Access Health versus Medicare.
Okay.
Because they could bought into Medicare through the Medicare Savings Program, but they wanted to apply for Access Health.
Yeah, so they would be able to come on and apply, but it's also dependent on their income information, their other income information, all of the other factors of eligibility would still apply to them. So were they able to apply and just didn't get a determination at all, or they called and they said?
They were called and they were rejected, saying that they can't apply for any insurance through Access
Yes.
because they're over 65.
Yeah, so that's,
we were trying to explain to them, no, that's not the case, call back again.
yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's inaccurate. And one thing that I would note that I brought up in our Tuesday meeting as well. So a month before open enrollment this year, we did onboard a new call center, and we have found one-offs in those instances where an individual called and got an inaccurate information. So we've been trying to rectify those situations as best we can. And any more information that we get about how QHPs interact with Medicare, we're actively sharing that with our call center, because it was likely an individual who called and said, I'm over 65, do I qualify? And probably someone who said, no, you're over 65, so you don't qualify for Medicare, without considering or having that knowledge base about what that actually means for a consumer and what the other qualifications are. So I apologize for those individuals who automatically got rejected, because that's not acceptable on our part.
Okay, and also this person that is 65 on Medicare Part A but not on Part B, are they eligible?
No, it's their eligibility for Part A that really influences whether or not they can purchase a UH.
So a person,
with financial
What
help.
happens if a person was, like I had a person that was on Medicare Part A for about 3 years, and they were also on Access Health. And then they were disenrolled from Access Health like in the middle of the year.
It's likely that if they either came on to report a change to their Access Health coverage or something like that, the data match that went on when they did that probably disqualified them from their qualified health plan at that point.
so for those online, individuals who qualify for Medicare Part A are no longer eligible for Access Health Insurance.
Yeah.
Is that right, Ally?
Yes, and there is, though, an exception in the case where an individual is enrolled in a QHP at the time that they turn 65 and become eligible. So we don't want to just be dropping people off of coverage entirely, but if an individual, and we are actually, fun fact, we're making system enhancements so that we can more thoroughly identify those individuals in advance and make sure that people are aware of what's going to happen to their coverage if they come on and we get something from the federal hub that says, oh, this person's actually enrolled or eligible for Medicare Part A. But anyone who is eligible or enrolled in Part A who has a QHP right now with financial help, so either cost sharing reductions or tax credits, they're no longer going to be eligible for that financial help once we, get information about them being eligible for Medicare. So, for example, I could see an individual enrolled in a cost sharing reduction plan, and because the cost sharing reductions are linked directly to that plan, you actually can't take the cost sharing reductions away without terminating the policy. So if they were in a cost sharing reduction plan and they came on and reported a change or did something in their application that triggered a redetermination of their eligibility, we could have gotten a value back from the hub that said this person is no longer eligible to receive this, and they would have gotten terminated altogether. Whereas if you're just receiving tax credits, for example, you would have just had your tax credits taken away. So there's a couple different things that can go on, and we're still working to figure out how all of that interacts with one another, and then making system enhancement based on that information. But it's helpful to know that what's actually happening to people when they come on to do that.
Another question, special enrollment. I only got 2 more questions.
Monopolizing.
I have this ability to ask these questions. Under a special enrollment period, if a person is on employer insurance, and let's say it's open enrollment for their insurance, but it's not open enrollment for Access Health.
Okay.
And they find that they have a $10,000 deductible. Would they then be able to change into Access Health at that time? Would that open them up to a special enrollment period if they don't elect their employer insurance?
So there's a couple different things that happen
Repeat
there.
the question.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sorry for everyone that's on the webinar. The question is about if an individual had employer-sponsored insurance that, for one reason or another, they believe to no longer be affordable, really. So if they find out that their deductible has changed or the offerings by their employer has changed, are they eligible to come on under a special enrollment period to apply through Access Health? And the answer is maybe, because there are a lot of factors that go into their ability to apply. So if their employer offers, there's two factors to employer-sponsored coverage. So there's, it has to meet a minimum value standard, and it also has to be affordable. Affordability is calculated based on the amount that the employer covers and what the individual is making. And so if the premiums or the cost to the employee, if the cost to the employee is more than 9.6% of the individual's income from that employer, their earned income, their employment income through that employer, if it's more than 9.6% of that, it's going to be considered unaffordable. If that was the case, they would be able to come on and apply for a qualified health plan with financial help. The minimum value standard has to do with, and of course now I don't remember what the technical terms are for, but minimum value has to do with what the employer-sponsored coverage actually covers, what benefits is actually going to cover. So those two factors, and we do actually have a process by which when an individual comes on and says, I have employer-sponsored coverage now, they enter in the information about how much they're paying for it and how much they're making. And we, through an appeal process, would contact the employer and say, your employee has come on to apply for coverage through Access Health with financial help. You know, if this is an error, if your coverage that you offer to your employee is actually affordable and meets minimum value, then we won't allow your employee to enroll. So the difficulty with that is, and actually the employer appeal process that we refer to it as, is a part of the legal department, which I'm housed in. So my two closest coworkers administer this program, this policy, I should say. And the struggle that we run into is what an individual believes to be unaffordable and what is actually affordable based on the calculation. Those two things can be very different. So we try our best to inform the employee and the employer of what their responsibility is and what's available to them. One thing that we also run into is that employees, so there's two, employers may not be supplying enough information, right? So that employee may see a $10,000 deductible and they're like, I can't do that. I certainly can't do that. And then there's also the employee has not sought out enough information about what all the options are. So we encourage people to still come on and apply and find out what they'd be eligible for, but they do need all that information from their employer and what their employer offers. That's a really good question.
Let's go to Sharon and then back to you, Free. Oh, okay.
Last two. I said two more. Dental. Can a person apply for dental coverage if they have employer health coverage? Can they apply separately for dental
For a
coverage?
standalone dental plan? I believe so. I'm almost positive of that, but I would have to double check on that one. If their employer does not offer any dental coverage, I believe they would be able to purchase the standalone dental plan through Access Health.
Okay. Now for permanent residency, this is my last question here.
Hey.
For permanent residency, is it a 5-year permanent residency to get onto Access Health plans? Or do they just have to be legal in the country in order to get access to the plan?
Okay. So the question, just for everyone on the webinar, was about any bars to residency as it applies to qualifying for to purchase coverage through Access Health. So the 5-year bar that you may hear about actually only applies to Medicaid. So that is a requirement if you're looking for a Husky health plan. For qualified health plans through Access Health, you actually only need to be able to prove that you will be lawfully present through the duration of the plan year that you're applying for. So for example, an individual who came on in December to apply for 2017 coverage would need to have documentation that says that they would be present through the entire year of 2017, which to our team basically means that the expiration date on whatever proof they have is in 2018. So if they anything after, January 1st, 2018, as long as it does not expire during 2017, they would be considered lawfully present for the entire year and they'd be eligible to purchase.
So if they have a visa to be in this country for a year, they can access health insurance for that year as long as it's the duration of the entire year.
Mm-hmm, yep, and there are instances where we have individuals who will not be present through the entire year. They have an expiration date that's sometime throughout the year, and we would encourage anyone with that situation to actively go on and apply for the renewal of their document or their status, or if they're applying for another status, for example. So if they're here on a certain type of visa, but they don't have a lawful permanent resident card, for example, so that they're intending to change their status. If they also provide, because this gets into the verification process, if they can also provide documentation that they're in the application process, letters from, I forget exactly what the agency is, that say, your application has been accepted, it's being processed, what have you, that's sufficient.
Okay, and can they do that anytime, like, can they just arrive? I'm almost done. If they just arrive here and it's not during open enrollment, are they open to a special enrollment because they just arrived here? Or no?
They are, but they do need to have the documentation. So if they step off the plane yesterday and they don't have their documents yet, it would be difficult for them to be able to come on to apply. But for example, if they came a month ago or something like that, they actually have 60 days from the date that they either arrive or gain their qualified immigration or citizenship status. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm done for now.
My question is very simple. I appreciate that Access Health is being proactive with the 26-year-old, I don't know, but the 65-year-olds. People who are aging in, because we have had a lot of people who have aged in to Medicare and were unaware that they needed to go on to Medicare or that was their option. They thought they could just elect to not go on enroll into Medicare and they can still stay on the Access Health plan. So I appreciate that. However, there is a segment of people who are disabled. So when you're saying you're doing that data match, you're doing 26-year-olds and 65-year-olds. How about for people who are on disability for 25 months?
So the question is, correct me if I'm wrong, is if there are individuals that qualify for 25 months of Medicare under a disability that they have, is Access Health proactively doing any kind of outreach to those individuals about their current qualified health plan in a similar manner to what we do for people aging off of their parents' plan or aging into Medicare. So without thorough knowledge of what our data match looks like for that, I don't think that we have any way of knowing in advance as far as that disabled individual goes, but I'm not positive. So if we get, and it's similar to the situation that you asked about previously. So if there's an individual that's covered on a qualified health plan, and we get a value back from the hub that's set when they either come to report a change or renew their coverage, something that triggers an eligibility redetermination. If we receive that information, we're going to get a trigger that says this person is no longer eligible for this QHP, right? So if they're approaching the date at which they're able to be enrolled in Medicare, we may have that information. But as far as months in advance, we likely, I can't speak and say definitely that we do have that information. Currently, we don't have a system in place that sends out a notice like that when we get that information back.
They do sometimes. They're doing it more now, and it should be automatic.
Right.
But we do find people that don't or think
I don't have to, right?
I want to do it.
Right.
Or if it triggers, if what you're doing at Access Health triggers that change and they're disenrolled from their plan, it could be a time where they're not eligible, for special enrollments through Medicare. You know what I mean? So it throws the individual off.
Yeah, and so the comment was that there are times that we receive information from the hub that maybe leaves the individual with a gap in coverage and
no prescription drug coverage.
Right. So we do our very best to try the way that our system is programmed to generate notices. Actually, we're required by law to generate certain notices based on eligibility determinations. So if you come on and you make a change, and then as a result of that change, as a result of what you told us, Access Health takes action on your account, we actually have to generate a notice that day. So, we control for it, 5 days mailing and things like that. So we try to be proactive about informing the individual of what they're eligible for. So if we get that information back and we have to discontinue their coverage, we try to let them know as soon as possible. But it can be very difficult. And we know that there are a lot of individuals who don't understand how the two interact. And because the law is built in such a way, we're still trying to figure out how the two interact. But if you have suggestions about how we can do that with the resources that are available to that, we're always open to those suggestions.
Okay, my question is, if you have somebody who should be eligible for Access Health and they're told they're not, like I had a similar situation with a resident that's a legal resident of the United States, but his income comes from Israel because that's where he got his pension. He's been living in America for 30 years and he had no insurance the entire time. If they tell him he's not eligible and he should be, who do you contact then?
So the question for everybody on the webinar is if an individual, and I'm going to make it a broad question, if an individual believes that they should be eligible for a qualified health plan, to purchase a qualified health plan, but they're told through our system that they're not eligible, the best way to do that is to file an appeal. And they would, if they completed an application, so if it wasn't just I called and I told them this about myself and they said I wasn't eligible. So that's a little different because we don't really have anything to go off of other than that, just that conversation. But if they went into the system, whether over the phone with someone or on their own online, and actually got an eligibility determination that says you are not eligible to purchase through Access Health, they can file an appeal when they receive the notice. There's an appeal form in every single one of our eligibility determination notices that they can file based on their eligibility to purchase a qualified health plan. So there's a couple different kinds of appeals that you can file, but that would be that. The thing that is difficult for me is, and we've actually had a handful of individuals who receive foreign income in that manner, and it is very difficult because if they don't know, what it boils down to is if the individual doesn't know how to report the income on their taxes or doesn't know, and I would imagine if he's been receiving it for a while, he probably does know how to do that. But if they don't, or they don't know where it fits into our application, for example, it can create that kind of inconsistency in knowledge. But the manner, the official manner by which they can do that is to file an appeal.
So if they call in and somebody tells them they don't qualify, you recommend going online and filling out an application anyways?
I think that is the best way to do it.
Is it possible to ask for a supervisor when you're...
That's also absolutely an option. So if they call the contact center and are told right off the bat that they're not eligible to qualify, I would say that it needs to be escalated to a supervisor or a manager, just because, like I said, we've onboarded a new call center. There are gaps in knowledge about how that works. So we would hope that if they get escalated, we would be able to resolve that issue. Okay?
So there's another question coming in online. If someone gets a QHP, they prove they will stay for the life of, okay, and they have less than 5 years of permanent residency, will they receive tax credits? Or will they have to pay out of pocket?
Yeah, so if they intend to file taxes, they should be, there should be a section there where they can attest to filing taxes for that plan year. And if they're married, they have to be married filing jointly. That's the requirement. They also, they have to enter their social security number. So we know that there are a lot of people who either don't have a social security number, don't qualify for a social security number, they only have a tax identification number, something like that. Currently our system is wonky and doesn't especially like when people don't enter their social security numbers. So if they find that the eligibility determination doesn't include tax credits or cost sharing reductions, any type of financial help, they should again either file an appeal or call the call center to be escalated so that that can be processed, because likely, depending on what their income was, they should be determined eligible, but just the limitations of our system, sometimes that can be difficult.
What income does a person report when applying? Income on line 37 on IRS form.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that modified adjusted gross income amount, that's in line 37 on form 1040. And then any of those tax exempt amounts. I think that they're in our presentation. There is a lot more information about what to include in your income on our website as well.
So I also had a request that this PowerPoint presentation be sent out to folks. Is that possible? You guys have the...
Sharon said no.
Yes. Sharon's teasing. Yes. I did record this.
And you will also have it available, recorded.
And also on the learn.accesshealthcta.com/community, there is an Access Health 101 presentation that is very similar to this. This was adjusted very slightly, but there's a lot of great information on that website again. So I think, any more questions? Should we end? Thank you so much, Allie. You did a wonderful job as usual.
That person should be applying for the Medicare Savings Program to see if they qualify for that.
Okay.
If they have that 20%, they should be applying for Medicaid.
So I just want to thank you all for spending a couple hours with us here, and we really appreciate you and everything you do. So we will end now. And again, thanks for joining.